Top left, Queen 5-5-2. That's a hand we won't be playing. Bottom left in the party poker game, the flops come Ace 10 Jack. Sorry, 8 10 Jack. And we had 8 10 Jack and a 9 in our hand. So we have an up and down straight draw, and we now have 4 pair. It's quite likely we may be behind at this time, but let's see how the betting develops. That's the beauty of having 3 pairs. If the board does pair, you can only end up with another. So in this instance, we've hit the Jack turn card to go with our top 2 pairs. So we now have Jacks full, and we're going to put in a little bet just to try and induce our opponent to call here. I could have checked it and given him the option to lead out on the river, which in hindsight might have been the better play. But we're just going to limp on the top right with Ace 3. Queen 6 because of the suited ace. And again, that's half the reason really why you shouldn't be playing low hands pre-flop, because you're now in a situation where you've got to call off 340 chips just to see a flop. But as I've got chips, as I'm hitting, I'm going to have a look. Well, there you are. I kind of gave a reason pre-flop why we shouldn't have been in the pot, and now there's the perfect reason why. We've flopped top pair against on a 3 heart board, so any 2 hearts now and we're drawing dead or almost dead on the high hand, and of course the low hand now needs runner to complete. Again, we're going to continue with the high hands in the party poker game. 10 Jack Queen King. That's good enough to limp in at the moment. 4 6 8 10, 4 clubs, not a hand I want to be playing at all from any position. Right, we're going to represent the hearts now, make it look like we're checking the flop behind. No, that's not a great card. We now have queens up, queens and 6s. Has our opponent got a flush? I think he'd have probably betted before now if he had, so it may be possible that our queens up might be sufficient. We also have the ace 3. I think we're in a reasonable stead here. What I don't want to do is face an all-in from my opponent holding ace 2 3 or such similar looking hands. I'm going to just call that off and scoop the pot. Oh dear. Okay, 10 Jack Queen King. Yep, we were going to see a flop with that hand, so the reason we limped is so we can see the flop and call a raise off. Obviously that board is hopeless for our hand, so I can now just check that down and auto tick fold. At this hand, I mentioned after my opponent didn't raise the flop all the turn that it was more than likely they didn't have a flush. That of course has turned out to be correct. Our opponents were sitting with a very nice pre-hand of ace 4, but for whatever reason he decided to just flat call behind my raise, or did he? Hang on. Yeah, let's play the hand back. So as I said, I thought initially ace 3 queen 6 was sufficient to limp with because of the suited ace. That was right. Then Breza raised it up to 420. I was cursing myself really for playing this kind of hand. But let's play it back. So we peeled for the extra 340 based on our chip stack as it stood. Again, very loose play, but it was something I was prepared to do. There's no point calling or limping early and then folding to any raise. So I had to show that I wasn't going to be folding to any 3 bets when I do limp. Again, it went check here, I think. The 5 was a great card for me because with my 3 and the 6 it gave me an up and down straight draw. It also gave me the second low draw with the ace 3, and of course I've got the queen. The fact that my opponent hasn't raised here on either the flop or the turn gives me reason to think they didn't have a nut flush draw, or indeed a flush at all. So for that reason I decided to then lead out, because I knew that my Queen 6 would probably stand quite well. The hand I didn't really want to see would be something like Ace 2-3 or Ace 2-7-8, but that was quite unlikely from the way my opponent was betting. So you know, it just felt right. It felt like they didn't have the flush, therefore my 2-pair was likely to be good. Ace 3 was the second nut low draw, so you know, I had some backup there as well, and as it turns out, we've ended up with quite a healthy looking stack, despite not really knowing where we were in the hand. Right. Bottom left we have King King 5-6, unraised pot, so I'm going to bump this one up from the cut-off. Top left, Ace 2-8-8. This is a limp under the gun. We have a nut low draw, nut flush draw, pocket pair. So potentially the hand could be very good, but again we're still pre-flop. We don't know what's going to happen. 10 Jack Queen flop, and we're dead to anything. So we'll try and keep the pot small. Bottom left, we've kind of hit this and we kind of haven't. We have. I'm going to put in a raise here because I've got 2 of the 4 kings, and I've also got the nut flush draw, and I don't think my opponent's got King 10. Yeah, as described top right, the Ace 2-5-5. We're just going to let this one go now. Let's see what materialises. 6 on the turn would have now given me the nut low draw, but again I'm still drawing. And the King River meant effectively I would have wasted any further chips. Right, bottom left we have a dilemma. I'm going to check behind. I'll come back to the reason for that. That one I am now going to check as well. Perfect scenario here. We can shuffle all in. Our opponent is very unlikely to have ace ace. Oh, okay, yeah. We'll come back to that hand in a second. Top left we have ace 2 on a 3-4-5 king board, so we now have the nut low. Very unlikely, well, or not guaranteed that we have the nut high. We see a 7 high straight could be out there, but we now have to put some chips in. Hopefully take down the pot. Uncontested. Right, bottom right we have ace 4, jack queen, suited to the ace and the jack. We're in the big blind, we're going to get to see a nice cheap free flop, so let's do so. Okay, we've got the third nut low draw, we have top pair, and we have 1 backdoor nut flush draw to the diamonds. So we'll keep this cheap and we'll check that. Top left we've got 2 callers, so with a flush draw and high draw in, I'm going to... What do I bet here? There's only a miss. So we're going to bet 1350 into a 22 pot. I think one of these opponents may possibly... Ah! Okay, that was... yeah, I thought I played that one bad. Right, so here we have my exit hand in the Party Poker Hilo game. If you wanted a demonstration on how not to play high-low, I have just given you the perfect demonstration. This really is a nasty hand from my perspective from start to finish. So let's play it back and look at the way the hand turned out. So pre-flop I had King King 5-6. I have 3 hearts in my hand. I have no real low draw. For whatever reason, position... Yeah, as I said, for whatever reason, I think it was position I used as an excuse to be raising there with that kind of hand. I've hit a flop which has now just got me in more and more trouble. As you can see on the flop, ace, jack of hearts. I have 3 hearts in my hand, so I have the heart draw. The queen on the board meant that, of course, King 10 would have been the stone cold nuts at the time. I deduced it was quite unlikely my opponent had King 10 on the basis that I had 2 kings in my hand. So what did my opponent have? Well, he could have had a set of jacks, he could have had a set of queens, he could have had a flush draw, he could of course have a set of aces, but judging by his pre-flop action I thought that was quite unlikely. So he let out on the flop. I thought my nut flush draw would be good, which of course it was at the time. So I decided to re-raise as I have position. My opponent then calls that re-raise, I believe. Yep, so okay, so at this stage, we've already made several mistakes, and the board now reads ace, king, queen, jack. So even if my opponent didn't have a king previously, if he now has a 10 in his hand with any 9, jack, queen, king or ace, right, we'll just concentrate on this top left hand. From we're on the button, it's been folded around to us, and we have ace 3, 4, jack. And I'm going to put in a little raised. It's not a great flop for our low hand, our ace 3, 4, but of course we have now hit trips. There is a flush draw out there. But as we raise pre, I think we better continue this. I don't know if I want a caller or not. Okay, we've got a caller. Turn card has now come an 8, so we're still holding trip jacks with an ace kicker. Why didn't I bet the turn? Okay, I gave my opponent a turn card. Sorry, free river. That river's come a 7 of diamonds. It's now made straight. Oh, I've played this hand dreadfully. I played it so bad. Oh, I'm going to have to just make a crying fold and regret not betting the turn there. Okay, so back to the exit hand on party poker. Atrocious. So as you can see, the king came on the turn, which meant that the ace high straight was still the nuts. That king gave us trip kings in the process, which was a good card. So we're now sitting with the second nut full house draw and of course the nut flush draw. When the river came down, the jack of spades, it was certainly one of the river cards I was hoping it would be. I knew that if a heart came down, a non-pairing heart, then I would obviously have the nuts. And with the jack falling on the board, now I have the third nuts. The only 2 hands beating me are jack jack and ace ace. Of course, it turns out our opponent has ace ace. He leads the turn for half for the pot. You know, I didn't even see the warning signs there. You know, again, as I said, jack jack ace ace possibilities. It's just a terrible high-low hand, and that's the reason generally why I don't play these kind of hands pre-flop, because they get you into trouble, and that's just a perfect demonstration really of why you don't play them. Right, top right ace. We're on the button, so we're gonna have a little ball here. It's not a great hand in the sense that we have 3 spades. It's not a great hand because we have a pair of deuces. And really, although we've just flopped trips, it's not a swap either. As we demonstrated on the left-hand table moments ago, these kind of hands can go extremely bad extremely quickly. Yeah, I think even though I'm on the button, I'm probably just going to check call here and hope I'm walking into an ace 3 for a split pot. We'll see how the betting goes. It can enable us to get away. But again, if I get the option, I should be taking the free river card. So there's no flush, there's no a straight out there with a 7, 8, 9. The combination of 10, jack, 5, 6. As I said, we're just going to make a little check call here. Almost in hope. We pick up the half pot, which we have done. So no disaster there. But again, the problem when you go calling bets for for half pots when you don't have the nuts. Obviously, if it goes wrong, you can lose a lot of chips in those scenarios. Due to hands I want to be raising, on the top left we now have ace ace deuce deuce double suited. This is a no limit game, so I'm just going to bump it up to 600 and hope I can get somebody to shut it over the top. Back to the top right, we've got the nut low draw and we've got a third pair. We also have, so on this occasion we have a decision to make on whether we continue for the low pot. Bet's 225 to pick up half of the 225. No, I'm not even going to chase the low draw here. It's there's no gain doing so. So top left, our ×3 raise with ace ace deuce deuce has got to the small blind, who's now tanking. What we're really hoping him to do here is to put in a little raise, which unfortunately he hasn't. And if Zima folds, it's a little bit disappointing. It's nice to pick up the 525 chips that are in the middle, but it's a sort of hand we want a bit of action with. And of course now we have that action. Our opponent has done exactly what we hoped they would do. There's not many hands we're in bad shape against here, but we are probably no better than 65%. So let's just see what happens. Perfect. Right, top right, ace 355 on the button. Second nut low draw, no suit. Probably a little loose, but I'm gonna flop here. Top left's and he has his bottom right. Sorry, bottom left. I'm copying them all tonight. I've already done my Lady Muck exit hand, and now I'm getting my lefts and rights mixed up like plums, so it's not boding too well. Right, an okay flop. We've hit second set. I'm just going to flat call here from the button again and see how that develops. And again, ace 347 double suited. That's quite a nice hand, so we're going to limp in here. See how we can get from there. Right, the only hand that my opponent's likely to have that's beating me at the moment, actually beating them, is pocket ace. So I'm going to call this and probably call a bit of a bet if it doesn't come to testing a card, which it hasn't. I don't have a low hand at all. So okay, some interesting developments on this left hand table. Ace 347 double suited. Lovely hand to take, a gamble with, but I've got 50 big blinds. There's been two shoves prior to me, so I'm going to make a reluctant fold. So top right, as predicted, it went to a chop. Again, ace 277 with a suited ace. And this is a hand I'll be taking a more aggressive stance with, just due to the suited ace and obviously the pocket pair with a nut low. Cool. Right, this top left hand table is getting quite flary at the moment. We've got an 18 big re-raise here to all in. I've got ace 238, a lovely hand, but again, I'm just going to have to pass it. Folded to me in a small blind with ace 235. This is clearly after the raise with. We're already getting quite short here. Well, he's only got 798 back, so I'm not going to call a fold. I'm not going to fold, so I guess we're just going to have to put them all in. With a hand I don't really want to be doing so, because all I have is a low draw effectively. Yeah, and that's the reason. That is the reason why we don't play those kind of hands. On top left in position we have ace 2, 10, 10. Depending on what happens before us, this is a hand we want to get involved in. Short stack shove for 800, so we're probably going to put in a raise here to try and isolate the hand. Of course, there is a school of thought to just fatten the 806 and bring in a couple of plays in case we hit the flop. But at the minute, I'm not playing great and I'm running worse, so I think this is probably the more sensible play. Perfect. Yeah, we'll flat call this here. Opponent could have ace king or a straight. But we'll play this hand a bit. So from a 270 bet into 1,000 pot, I can only assume my opponent has just hit a diamond flush on the river. But either way, I think it's that cheap. I just want to confirm myself that's what's happened. No, he hit the straight on the flop. Okay, yeah, not a problem. Right, top left we have ace 2, 6, 9. Good ace. And as we're playing a bit more aggressive, we'll put in a minute. One caller so far in position. Bar tug. He's probably going to do that. Yeah, I had a feeling he might do that. Again, nice enough starting hand, but it's not a hand that you'll be calling off that many chips with. So we'll just pass. 3-5 queen king. We'll put in a raise here. We're in position. We've got a low draw. We've got 2 flush draws. Sort of hand that gets you in trouble. Any kind of re-raise, then I'm just throwing them away. But we're in position. Let's see what happens. Well, we saw a flop, and the flop's not great. If either of our opponents have hit this, they're quite likely to check it to me anyway. That's my guess. Is that's probably a bluff with an overpair, or a semi-bluff anyway. Flush draw might be good, but it's not nuts. So probably should have folded pre.